All right, everyone. The other day, Donald Trump was giving a little bit of an interview there, and he was talking about Jeff Sessions, and he's like, well, I don't have an attorney general, basically reaming him, insinuating basically the attorney general's not doing his job. This has been an old claim. When people say, well, in private, Trump says terrible things about him and, hates his guts, I don't think it's that. I think he's looking at what's going on with an obviously rogue group of intel agencies, the FBI among others, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions refusing to rein them in because they're attempting to tyrannize our republic. And he's getting upset at it. He's getting upset because, in my belief, it's basically the opposite of the one-dimensionality sort of propaganda that's being spun with regards to Trump by the left. They say, well, he's a tyrant. The deep state is hashtag resist. They're trying to prevent him from destroying the United States. I see the opposite. I think that Donald Trump means well, and that the deep state is controlled by corporatists. I base this on the fact that I can observe the corruption of the U.S. government increasing, number one, over time, and number two, being very, very obviously present. We had a president just before Trump who claimed that he didn't know the NSA was spying on us all until he saw it on CNN. Not only is that an out-and-out lie, it was paired with all sorts of other pro-police state maneuvers, proxy wars, drone strikes, assassinations, and intrigue that indicates to me, yeah, if that's the way that the United States is going to operate, I don't really understand where our founding features are within that general principled ethos. I think that it's completely wrong. I think it's anathema to what the founders would have wanted. I think rather that Trump is a good guy, that there are plenty of good people that try to do their best, think they're doing a good job within the rest of the maybe the more established government, but that there are also people within the FBI, it seems, and within the NSA, the CIA, other intel agencies, just as there are people within Congress who don't want to do their job. There are slime balls in government, and there are people that are dumb enough to believe that because Trump has been labeled the one-dimensional villain by CNN and the New York Times, that if he goes after an intel agency, everyone in that agency must actually be really good and trustworthy, even if it is so obviously false that that would be the case. So I would naturally he's angry at Jeff Sessions, and I'll go further. That is to say, I was never a Jeff Sessions fan to begin with. I look at him and I see an unprincipled neocon primarily, a drug warrior, a moralist. I see someone who's closer to being maybe a fusion of what the Democrats are slowly becoming with what the Republicans were at the height of the shittiest days of George W. Bush. That's basically where Jeff Sessions is. I don't like him as a person. I don't think he should have been chosen for that position. If anything, I think Trump might have put him in there to provide an unlovable face for the United States that he could blame when things went wrong, which I don't know if that was necessarily the greatest political strategy. Regardless, though, Trump has also said he won't fire Sessions until after the midterms. After that, all hell may break loose. I want to see Attorney General Ron Paul, with Trump commanding him, and get rid of Mueller, get rid of Rosenstein, rip the FISA courts a new asshole, disseminate all information, declassify everything. I think that'd be a good idea. I think it would be a wonderful idea if something like that were to happen. Unfortunately, what we seem, if you look at the Veritas release from the other day, it seems that you have individuals within various bureaus who have basically defected and are committing sedition at the moment. That's not a small claim to make, but that is what it appears to depict, is multiple government agents saying, yeah, we hashtag resist from within our agencies, we're not going to get fired. They're doing what the Soviet Union had a problem with. And I'm wondering if there might not be foreign involvement, by the way, with this sort of hashtag resist thing. I'm sort of wondering if the deep state in collusion with a bunch of actual commies aren't the ones spreading the resist bullshit to try to bring the republic to its knees. That is literally, we finally get a leader that's willing to purge the corruption. Oh shit, all of the progress we've made for decades might be pissed away, says the former KGB agents. We need to cook things up right now. We need to slam this government shut, obstruct everything, and throw a bunch of wrenches into the machine. This is exactly what happened in the latter-day Soviet Union, that his agents from the West, and their sympathizers over there, began purposely sabotaging the rungs of government and private industry. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Commissar, I forgot to maintenance my machine and it exploded and destroyed the whole factory. total user error, and this sort of thing happened with fair regularity. Some of the reason the USSR had problems really was because of Western espionage, by the way. CIA released declassified and released a field book that it was using at the height of the Cold War, I think last year, and it's very exciting to read. It's fairly short manuscript. I think it's like 20 pages. It's basically, hey, let your tools get rusty. Work a little bit more slowly. Jaw a little bit more at the assembly line. People, be a little bit more corrupt. Skim a little bit more off the top. And it's like that was already happening, and the U.S. Sort of backed forces just took advantage of that natural tendency and amplified it to increase the vices of the society as it was in order to cause it to be less efficient. It worked, at least in part. I wouldn't be surprised if a similar system is in use today. Certainly. No, I don't trust the establishment. And if you trust the establishment, you have to be insane. And Sessions is pretty much a face of that. He's not some sort of maverick or anything. He's not a maverick of any kind. His views are very much in line with the 90s or 2000s Republican platform. Or with the Democratic platform now. Look, he's moralistic. They're becoming increasingly so. There's a reason why Les Wexner and all of these people, there's a reason why Mitt Romney was briefly a never-Trumper. He thought it would be good for his career. Now he's reconsidering it finally. There's a reason why John McCain had so much stress. He had fucking tumors in his head and shit. Probably the stress of having to deal with the fact that the president, for once, didn't want to haul off and bomb Iran like he did. Oh my goodness, the United States is falling on hard times. We're avoiding a proxy war? Trying to make peace in Korea? What are you doing? You're such an evildoer. That's basically what Jeff Sessions represents. I don't know why Trump chose him. He's obviously not loyal to Trump in the sense that a hashtag resistor would say is tyrannical. So that's out the window. He's not loyal to the Republic. He's not really doing any sort of good job. He has no idea what he's doing when it, regards the drug war. I would say that should be one of the biggest issues too. Like Trump has actually tried to make some progress on fighting the opiate epidemic, but we need to begin scaling down the war on marijuana at least to divert those resources to trying to take care of addiction to substances that are actually addictive and harmful. But that's not being suggested by someone like Jeff Sessions. Now, again, put Ron Paul on there. Someone who will be hard right on guns and hard left, so-called, when it comes to drugs. And you'll have a really, really great AG. Yeah, I think it'd be a wonderful time if he put him. By the way, his youth support would skyrocket. And the liberals would have a nervous breakdown. Oh my God, Ron Paul's back in government. It's terrible. No, the one person who was ever in the GOP that they actually feared because he didn't cuck. He didn't back down on his principles. He was saying, yeah, legalize weed back in the 70s. He was considered a tabloid fodder at the time for doing it. In a way, a little bit similar to Trump. I think Trump has more in common with Ron Paulite than a lot of people would suspect. Now, he's not Hitler. He's not being tyrannical. He's trying to shutter an inept AG. Why is it in any other situation? If the president came out and said, well, I'm not happy with the attorney general, the way he's doing his work, I think that I'm going to switch AGs, people wouldn't chalk it up to tyranny. They'd say, oh, well, maybe the attorney general's not doing it behind the closed doors. Maybe the attorney general's just dumb. Or not doing the job fast enough, like there are cases backed up or something. But because it's Donald Trump, the fact is the attorney general sits there and appears to be doing nothing, knowing that he's going to get canned, I think, at this point after the midterms. And I hope he does. I didn't want him in that position to begin with, although it was a better choice than some option at the time. It's sort of like when they put Tillerson in. Well, Tillerson was better than Romney, which was his name was bandied around, or Mike Huckabee, or Rick Santorum or something, but didn't mean he was effective. Now we've got Pompeo in there, which has been a major boost to our foreign policy. Replacing Sessions with somebody who is perhaps more inclined to tackle the big problems of the day, probably a good idea. So I hope that it actually happens. That's about all. Peace out.